Aloha, I am Taisei from Taisei Discovers. Today we are filming in the beautiful Manoa Valley at Paradise Park. Thank you to Uncle Warren and Auntie Napua, the caretakers of this wonderful location. We are honored to be here, to film here, and to tell stories of Hawaii, the stories that need to be heard. Today, a special guest, a man that I've been connected with for years, a man that is respected when it comes to the mysteries of Hawaii. Lopaka Kapanui, welcome to Taisei Discovers, my friend.
Good to be here.
Yes, much respect. Let's just start off. How are you feeling today?
Feeling good. Had a big day ahead of me, so very relaxed.
Okay, solid. So big day. This is very huge for us, and I just want you to know, when it comes to the stories and the mysteries of ancient Hawaii, I've always been fascinated, and that's actually why you're here. You're here to talk story and tell us a little bit about some of your insights and experiences with the spirit world. But first, our relationship stems from my mother. Which she knows you very well, and she's always spoken highly of you. What are your thoughts on my mother?
Your mom is my Hula sister. And so when your mama was going through her uniki, I was a part of it because I was going through my uniki to be kumuhula simultaneously, and she, I think, to olapa or ho'opa. But she was very good support system, and very much kind of like my big sister. So when I was doing good, she would say you're doing good, but when I was like messing up, she's like, you messing up. So I'm so thankful for your mom for just being the person in that hula aspect that helped kept everything in perspective when our kumu wasn't doing it. So she's a kumu hula now, and very well deserved.
Yes, and to both of you actually. So what role does hula currently play in your life?
So speaking only for myself, and I cannot say this in the capacity of I'm speaking for every hula person, but for me, hula is everywhere. And hula finally becomes the physical aspect of chants, mele, and a lot of hula have to do with things in the environment, flowers, ferns, feats of nature, and a lot of times, love. And so all of that is something that courses to a person who is a hula person. That's in their wheelhouse 24/7. There's this mele, and I don't know if you can get copyright problems, but it's a mele written by Kili Raichel, and one of the lines in this mele is Mohala ki aloha i ka ulalena, which means love has blossomed in the ulalena rain. So beautiful. And the ulalena rain is this reddish yellow-hued rain, and I don't think it's the rain itself that's that color. I assume it's because of the way the sun is positioned when the rain is falling. And this is a rain that's one of the rains specific to Maui, so when the sunlight hits this rain a certain way, it appears like it's yellowish, reddish hue. And so the line alludes to, the love between these two people, blooming and becoming what it is, when this rain is falling. So that's the physical description of it, but what the underlying meaning is lovemaking. The culmination of a relationship when you feel like it's finally time to consummate, but in this capacity, it's happening in nature when this rain is falling. And so to me, that one line alone in that mele is the culmination of what Hawaiian poetry is, but also the culmination of hula, the physical aspect, manifestation of the dance of that singular line.
Oh, so I think a lot of us understand that hula is a way to carry on culture and tradition.
Absolutely.
Storytelling, right? Through the dance, the movements, also the mele, the song, right? Is telling stories. And Hawaiians didn't have they didn't write their stories down. It all came through passing down through stories. And currently, that's what you are doing in a different capacity, storytelling. In a way, and you are considered a master storyteller. But before we get into that, I would like to talk a little bit about your relationship with Buddhism as a Hawaiian man. So your relationship with Buddhism, what does that look like?
So, as a cultural practitioner, again, speaking only for myself, as a Hawaiian, for me, Buddhism makes sense. Because the Buddhism I practice talks about, the oneness of man and his surroundings, the law of causality, which is cause and effect, and also the aspect of becoming one with, your surroundings and all the people, which takes, a lot of focus. And so the culmination of this Buddhism is that everything you need, your happiness, whatever it is, it's not external. It all starts from here. It starts from here. And so the other thing that really grabbed me about Buddhism is that there were 5 things in life that were unavoidable. No matter what you did, you couldn't avoid these 5 things, and that's birth, life, sickness, old age, and death. So in Buddhism, they say these 5 things are absolutely going to happen in your life, and you cannot avoid it. So then the question becomes, what do I do with my life here, in between these 5 events? How do I conduct my life so I get through these, with real ease and as less trouble as possible, till I finally get to the last part, which is unavoidable. And so that's what really attracted me to Buddhism. And I think, speaking for myself, if Buddhism was the thing that was first introduced, before the missionaries came, we might have been a lot better off, I think.
Well, that's why you're here, is to speak on what you feel and what you think and your beliefs. Is there a relationship, you think, between Buddhism and ancient Hawaiian culture?
There's a lot of similarities. There's a book called Tales of the Night Rainbow, and there's a lot of I don't want to say argument, but a lot of opinions as to whether some of it is factual, some of it is not. But one of the things they talk about is that there were Hawaiians already here before the mass migration from the South Pacific that introduced the Ali'i class system. And so this book says that these first people that were here on Molokai believed in a supreme being that came from the east, radiated with light. And that those Hawaiians woke up in the morning and faced the east and prayed. It's like a very Buddhist thing. And so the book also says, but when the Western religion is introduced, it talks about a man radiating light, which happens to be, Christ. But who knows what this being or might have been before the introduction of Western philosophy. So to me, that was crazy. I was like, wow, that's really, really close to Buddhism.
Yeah. Interesting. As a man that is a part of a Buddhist temple, Shinyo in Hawaii, I also go to a Christian church. I've also studied the Baha'i faith from Persia. My mom has always encouraged me to figure out what my purpose is and what my beliefs are on my own. So she helped me explore different faiths. And what I've come to find is that they all really sing the same song. Being a good person, morals, right? Don't steal, don't cheat, and that there is one almighty God that holds everything together. That same one almighty God created Buddha, Bahala, the Bob. They created Jesus Christ, So I feel like it really comes down to coexisting, no matter what your beliefs is, as being in humanity, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about your experience with death. You actually experienced death at an early age. How did that affect you?
Yeah, up until that point, I was a very sickly child, and at one time when I woke up during the night and went to use the bathroom, and I was like 6 or 7, and when I was doing number 1, blood was coming out, just screaming bloody murder. My adoptive parents come in and they see it, so I have to go to Children's Hospital. And a thing happened where I had to have surgery, and then when I came out of it, I remember hearing the doctor tell my mom, we kind of lost him for a little while, but we were able to bring him back. And she's like, what do you mean? That's like surgery for a kidney. Like, how can you lose a child? But after that is when I really started to see and feel and, hear things I couldn't understand.
So that was a turning point for you.
Yeah.
With your experience in actually passing away, what happens after we die?
That is the question. What happens after we die? As far as I know, no one has ever come back and said this is specifically what happens after we die. And so in academia, they suppose that when the body dies, the brain, having lived through all these descriptions of what heaven is, probably has that experience. And so if it's for someone who practices Baha'i faith or whatever, at the moment of death, perhaps the brain experiences whatever that is, the place they're supposed to go to. But, and again, speaking only for myself, my mom would describe, the realm of the Makua. Like when your body dies, your spirit goes to this ulu tree that's over this portal to wherever you're supposed to go. And waiting at that ulu tree is your Makua. And they're the ones that judge you on your life. So there's this good side of the tree you can go to with your Makua, to the other realm. But the same tree, the other side, has this dark, danky, mossy side. And if you haven't lived a good life, honored your parents, your chiefs, useful to your community, if you haven't done those, then you go to that bus-up side of the tree. And you got to wait till the branch breaks so, you can be fed spiritually. And
similar to the heaven and hell story.
Pretty much. And it's funny that, it has that aspect. But you know where Kapolei is? Yes. So from Barbara's Point, I think, to probably Aiea, was also anciently referred to as the realm of Kaupe'a. And it's the realm where wandering spirits went if you couldn't go anywhere and you fed on spiders and mosquitoes. And there's vivid descriptions of what's been happening, especially now that Kapolei has been developed. And what strikes me as unusual is there's development in Kapolei called Kaupe'a homes. So it's like, you guys know what you're doing?
The overlap of ancient beliefs and modern day society is kind of interesting, huh? For the parents out there that has a child that maybe has the gift of seeing spirit or hearing spirit, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, don't freak out, and don't tell your child they're going to go to hell, and that they're the devil. Be like your mama, be supportive, just support, try to understand what's going on. And a lot of times it's, just the child's own worries and insecurities about, not wanting to be alone. But every person inherently has a psychic ability, but that ability is like a muscle. You don't exercise the muscle, it doesn't work. But inherently everybody has it. So for children, if that's happening, I would recommend you, refer to someone who knows what that is. Like a spiritual advisor, a parapsychologist, and maybe that person can help, identify if there's really something going on with the child and try to understand it and, develop it or not.
Yeah, and if you seek, then God tends to put things in your path that you need. Right. Wow. So, Lopaka, is seeing spirit or hearing spirit a gift or is it a curse?
It depends. I'll say this from my own experience. A lot of times, people who are receptive have communication all the time. So you have to condition yourself to, because what I do is when I get home and, the event or whatever is over, in my mind, I picture myself, putting in a time card and punching out. And so when I do that mentally, then that's when I say vocally, okay, I'm off the clock. Don't bother me. And so a lot of people who have certain abilities have these spirits communicate all the time and sort of, go nuts because there's no one to mentor them as to how to turn it off. So there's this field of study called parapsychology. And parapsychology is the study of how the power of the human mind survives the physical death of its own body. So the theory in parapsychology is when the body dies physically, what's left over is the conscious, the soul. However you pray, it's fine. But the theory says this conscious energy that survives separately from the body communicates telepathically. So if this is true, then that means that this can only communicate to a human being who's telepathically receptive. And so this is communication. It's not possession, it's not anything like that. And what it is people ask me, my uncle died, how can I talk to my uncle's spirit? And I tell them, your uncle's body is dead, the flesh is gone, but the personality is basically the same. So the way you talk to your uncle when he was alive, talk to him the same way. Because if you talk to him any other way, your uncle is like, who the hell is this?
No.
But if you speak to them the way you did when they were still alive, then the communication is easier in that aspect.
Okay, tell me this. Like there are good people and bad people. Are there good and bad spirits?
Yes. Yes. And the ones that are considered evil or negative are the ones who had no understanding of what is the word? For lack of a better term, retribution, or a way to better themselves, lessen the evil that they commit in life. So, essentially no support, no light. So when the flesh dies, this is the energy that's left over. And I know you're referring to things like possession. People come to me about possession all the time, and 95% of it is very explainable, because a lot of it is mental illness, which you can definitely identify. But because of the movies and social media, like everything's a demon, everyone's possessed. But there's that 5% where those cases are legitimate. So in the state of Hawaii, and this goes for all religions, all philosophies, but in the state of Hawaii, we have only one qualified exorcist, and nobody knows who that is until you actually have to call him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope we never have to call him.
Hope so.
Okay, so let's talk about Mysteries of Hawaii. This is, I think, the #1 guided tour in America.
In America. For 2 years.
For 2 years. You're carrying the torch of Glen Grant, correct? Let's talk a little bit about Glen Grant, and then let's get into Mysteries of Hawaii.
So the short story is Glen Grant was invited to the University of Hawaii in, I think, the early 70s to complete his doctorate in American history from Professor Dennis Ogawa. So they're both from Santa Barbara, Culver City. And so when Glen Grant arrived here, he told me, and it's in one of his books, he lived in this beat-up old shack, and there were 4 other candidates for their doctorates. And he said the rent between the 5 of them was very expensive. They had to split between themselves what the rent was, which was $150. He's like, what? So they had some experiences in the house. One night they're on the couch watching the football game, and there's somebody in the kitchen picking up the trash can and just busting it on the floor. And he said the kitchen didn't have back door windows. When you turn off the light, it's dark. When they go into the kitchen and turn on the light, like nothing. Everything's fine. Nothing's beat up. The garbage can is fine. And a couple of days later, he said when he came home from a class with his girlfriend, just jumped in the shower, and he said, shower curtain like this, and he sees her silhouette coming toward the shower. And so he opened the curtain, and he said he felt her get in behind him and heard the curtain shut. And then she just smacked him, like from behind. And so he's like, oh, what's going on? Washed himself off, like the bathroom door is locked. Nobody's in the bathroom except him. And so he said the straw on the camel's back was a friend of theirs was late for a class. He had to teach at 10. It was like 9:45. And he reached into the room and to tap him on the foot covered by the blanket. And he said when he touched the blanket just fell flat and went like this. And so nobody was on the cot. So they called the landlord. And later that night, the landlord came and said, oh, Japanese lady, our landlord. And they're telling her everything that happened. And she said, oh, sorry. I forgot to tell you guys, the lady that lived here before, she found out her husband was cheating, so she hung herself in the kitchen. And so she said her ghost hates men. So my boss said within, I think, 6 months to a year, like all of his roommates, one by one, they were killed in really bad car accidents.
Really?
Yeah, and he was the only one that survived. So that was kind of like the impetus for him to start, finding out about what ghosts and spirits are in the island, and that's how he eventually developed this ghost tour.
Wow, so that situation was kind of the catalyst for him to kind of tell the stories, the mysterious stories of Hawaii. Because I remember Chicken Skin and how much of how entertaining it was for me as a youngster. My mother and my brother, we'd all watch it and get freaked out. So let's talk Mysteries of Hawaii. What does a tour look like?
So on Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, we meet at 7 in front of the Kamehameha statue. And there's a short clarification about, what to expect, what not to expect, what to do, what not to do. And then an introduction of our Makua Lanei Kamehameha. And I can't tell everything, so I usually talk about maybe this much, and then we take off. But one of the things I tell them is, whatever happens tonight or doesn't happen, I tell everybody, it's you, it's not me. And I said, you're responsible for your own energy. So the energy you have with you now determines how the spirits react or don't act. So the whole time we're doing that excursion, now they have this on their mind. But they also find out that they cannot look at their pictures that they take until the thing is over. And there's certain things they cannot say while it's going on. So they're bearing all this responsibility while this is going on. And on top of that, they have to listen to me tell them about all these, haunted places. So that's what makes it really an experience and really not so much a tour. And it's very interactive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me this. What's the importance of telling these stories about haunted places?
You get to find out why they're haunted. And you also get to find out about, the spiritual aspect of why these spirits are here. So we not only talk about, our own host culture, Hawaiian culture, but things concerning other cultures, Filipino, Puerto Rican, Portuguese, Hawaiian, Japanese, Chinese, and a little bit of African American culture. Because there's a building in downtown Honolulu, and I cannot name the building because I don't want people going there and doing stupid things. But at one time in the early 60s, this building was used as a meeting place for the Prince Hall Masons, the African American Masons.
Okay.
And nobody knew they were having their meetings there, so periodically, people coming by late at night would hear, pounding and screaming, and sometimes, somebody's just being thrown out the window. And they'd call the cops, but nobody realized that this was, the Prince Hall Freemasons having their meeting. And so there's aspects of those meetings that still remain in that space. So even today, police officers say they drive by and on Richard Street and they just happen to glance up and they see somebody being tossed out the window, but the whole building is closed. Yeah.
Are you able to talk a little bit about what a Freemason is?
A Freemason is someone who serves his community, and his goal is to impart hope, faith, and charity.
And we'll keep it at that.
That's all I can say.
Okay. I've always wondered, is like some kind of secret society you got to be invited to and whatnot, but we'll stay away from that. So you was talking about like other cultures, the Filipino, African American, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Are you interested in some of the mysteries when it comes to the spirit world with other cultures, or are do you have your hands full with Hawaiian culture?
Oh no, absolutely. The other cultures are undeniable because, they immigrated here during the plantation era, so they've become basically a part of our local culture, our local makeup. So as well as, the Hawaiian culture having, these spirits and things that we deal with culturally, there's all these other spirits that came with these people who arrived to work on the sugar plantation. And so they didn't just bring, their foods, really great food, customs, beliefs, but also their spirits, which is why we have, Japanese spirits here. The most famous ghost story in all of Hawaii is a Japanese ghost story.
Which one is that?
Nopperabō.
Can you explain?
Yeah. So the Nopperabō is a person who, some places like Niigata, the traveler is going down the road and there's a soba stand, and the person is sitting down for soba, and the person presenting the soba says, "Oh, so late at night you're traveling?" He goes, "Yes." He goes, "My soba is the best." When the guy's eating like this and looks up, the guy has like no face. And so it is believed that incarnation was brought here from Japan.
Well, that's related to the Cam Drive-In story?
Waialae Drive-In.
Waialae Drive-In.
Yeah.
In the bathroom.
In the bathroom. Now,
this woman.
Now at a mall in Kahala.
Oh, so that's I didn't know about that. So
Yeah.
Kahala Mall.
Oh, you said it, yeah.
Bro. I only mean respect. So, I'm really interested in like Menehune, the stories of the Menehune, night marchers and whatnot. Can you share a couple of stories with us?
So there's a place that has Japanese weddings out in Hawaii Kai. And the owner is really nice. She always lets us host things there. And a few years ago, it's way before COVID, we're doing a short version of the one in Japan where they do 100 stories and 100 candles. but we're doing like 13. And so after it's over, the owner of the place says, "You mind if I share a story?" And she did. And she said, "There's a menehune around our place." And she said, we don't see them like plain sight. Like we'll see them standing here, hiding here. And her husband, who's a retired attorney, who said, I never believed in any of this. And he said, until I saw a menehune myself. And so we're outside, and here's the deck, and I'm standing here, and she's talking. And I glance behind her, and I look inside the house, and you know how like this table here has the 4 legs? As I look in the house, I see under the table, sitting up against one of those legs, that far right one, it looks like this little kid, dark skin, knees up to the chest like this, and big eyes, and black hair, just dark chocolate skin, looking at me like this. And I realize, oh, it's a kid. But then the thing stands up, and it's a fully formed man, but like this high. And the thing just walked off, and I was like, I panicked, I was crying, and in my mind I'm saying, oh, kalamai, like, I didn't know, I didn't leave, offering nothing. So after she was done telling her story, and she bought everybody like those creamsicles, and they're just doing it. It was like, no, it's like, put it down over there, leave it in the planter and say you're sorry. It's like, let's go. So that was sort of the offering.
Yeah. So tell me this, what is the importance of offering these spirits food?
So my mom told me, now today, because things are different and we don't really understand, a lot of things that were lost, she said it's important not to make food offerings, depending upon, what the situation is. So for menehune, if you built something, no matter what it is, over the place where they lived, you're supposed to leave a certain type of shrimp and a certain type of banana. So 2 things they like. And I don't know about anything else. I don't know if it's pork, but I know it's these 2 specific things. And so that's the things that appease them. But as far as like, where is it? Things like this ki'i behind you.
Yes.
My mama said we don't leave food offerings anymore because a lot of things were lost and we don't understand, certain things. And she said there's things we shouldn't. But she said when you leave food offerings, you're doing like ho'o mana. You're imbuing the thing with mana. And so she said the next time you go and you don't leave food, she said whatever's in that thing that you've done ho'o mana is now going to start feeding on you.
Oh.
So it's something, if you decide to be the kahu or the caretaker of that thing and feed it, you have to feed it all the time.
Oh.
So there's no, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. No.
So I want to kind of real quick go back to menehune. What is a menehune? Is it like an ancient Hawaiian? Is it a...
So it's believed in one aspect that the menehune came from somewhere else in the South Pacific, and that they're fully formed human beings, but very, less than 4 feet, but very stocky. And that they arrived first to the island of Kauai. Other stories say they're already on Molokai. And so eventually this group of menehune married into the Hawaiian, with the Hawaiian people who were there. And some of the menehune didn't like that, so they just sailed back to whatever land it was they came from. So this is why, when Ali would ask the menehune, oh, I need this fish pond, I need this hale, the menehune would say, okay, but you have to feed every one of my people. And when we do our work, you cannot be there. If anybody looks while we're doing it, that's it. It's done. We're walking away. And so that's why these great feats happen where the menehune would build these things in one single night.
Yeah.
Right? So today, during the time of Kaumoali'i, there was a census that was taken, the population on Kauai. And I hope the number I say is not incorrect. If it is, kalamai, somebody correct me. But it was found out that in Wainiha, there are 75 menehune still among the population. So today on Kauai, there's families who can legitimately claim that their bloodline comes from menehune bloodline.
Interesting. And are they shorter in stature and everything? Or?
Not necessarily, but you can tell by the features by some of these Hawaiians that, they're definitely descended from menehune.
Well, that's really interesting because the Hawaiian warriors, like some of them that Brooke Parker, by the way, I just got to shout out Brooke Parker, another one of the guests that we've had on Taisei Discovers, and really gave us a lot of amazing insights into the Hawaiian culture. On the other end, there were some Hawaiians that were giants, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed that Kamehameha himself was 7 feet, more than 7 feet. And in a lot of these books, it is said that he was in such great athletic shape that if he didn't have a shock of white hair, you wouldn't be able to tell exactly how old he was. You know, he was the man.
Yeah, he was the man, and I think that's why he's so respected even till this day.
Yeah.
Let's talk night marchers, man. There's a lot of different paths on the island, and people say, oh, if you go here, or if at nighttime you can see the torches. Kaena Point, I have family members that have witnessed the torches going down the mountains. Can you explain a little bit about what the significance of night marchers in Hawaii?
So, you know, in ancient times, there were a lot of ceremonies which required a lot of different types of processions. So not all processions ended up becoming night marcher processions. But the essential basic night marcher procession is a procession of spirits that in life were these warrior chiefs, or just, you know, koa, pu'ali koa. And depending upon the status of the ali'i, or the kapu of the ali'i, they would march in front of that person if the back was sacred, or behind the person if the front was sacred. And sometimes the processions were like as large as 40 abreast, like just almost never ending. And so the procession also, because it's an army, they send out scouts, what we know as scouts, to warn everybody, you know, the ali'i is coming, so either get out of here, or, you know, if it's too late, essentially close off face down. And a lot of people, when I say that, they think I'm making it up. But, you know, our Makualani, Kamehameha, his kapu wife, Keopualani, whenever he went to go see her, he had to strip naked and crawl to her because of her kapu. So in doing that, when night marchers are coming, you know, hemolole, lie down, you're not supposed to look. So in life, if you look at the ali'i, you're not supposed to look at, you killed. And even if their shadow like is on your body, you're killed. And if their house is kapu, and you're walking by the house and the shadow of the house touches you,
you know, it's kind of interesting with the influx of Western civilization here in Hawaii, mixed with the beliefs of ancient Hawaii, and how that all seems to coexist right now. What do you feel like the current state of the occult from Hawaii is right now?
the occult?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that question?
Well, like I would say the paranormal.
Oh,
Yeah. Because, I mean, I can only imagine what the spirits feel, how that mixes with all these different personalities that are here now. Maybe they don't respect.
the first thing I will say is, you know, a lot of these paranormal groups, you know, tend to go to the same places or go to certain places where they basically act stupid because they want a reaction from the spirits. Once the spirits feel like you're taking advantage of them for your own purposes, number one, they won't do anything, or number two, things are going to start happening, you know, and not when you expect, like when you're sleeping and it's dark, but like, you know, in your daily life, like things like you'll start getting into these accidents, your health is going to suffer, your relationships start suffering, your finances suffer. So a lot of these new paranormal groups, you know, popping up wanting to, you know, get likes and hits, to be popular and famous, don't do their research, and they watch these paranormal TV shows, and I think that's what those investigations are all about, but it's not. It's not. I recommend that if you decide you want to do something, decide what it is you're going to do, what the purpose is, and when you go to these haunted places, don't go alone. Bring notebooks. And forming a paranormal group is specifically for, you know, the research. So what you don't do is decide who in your group is the psychic and the investigator and, you know, the demonologist, stuff like that. You know, there has to be a specific purpose. If you're doing it for fame, it's completely, you know, completely hava.
Yeah, I don't find the paranormal shows entertaining at all. It's like, you know, why would you put yourself in that situation? And there are instances where spirits do follow people.
Absolutely,
correct?
Absolutely. Especially if you're doing things that are stupid, you know, guarantee at some point, sooner or later, you'll end up getting followed, and that's an essential truth that happens a lot to people who don't know what they're doing. And so when people call me like that and say, "Oh, I got followed," I said, "What do you want me to do about it?"
Yeah, yeah. You know, tell me one thing. I was always Hawaiians were nautical people that navigated the oceans using the currents, the wind, the animals, also the stars.
Right.
Do you have any stories about maybe inter-island travel or maybe intercontinental travel?
There, yeah. So for the Hawaiians who were navigators, because Hawaiians had so many different kuleana. There's a story a friend of mine, and I actually want him to tell it, so I'll kind of like go through the story. But I think he was in school, and they're on this boat, and they're off the coast of Diamond Head, toward the Maui side, and they were swimming, and when they dove down and came up, like the ship was gone, and so there they are, just not really knowing what to do, how to get back to shore. And so the short story is, which is why I want my friend to tell it, it's an awesome story. They get brought back to shore by a whale.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I know this person personally, he's my brother. And so when he was telling me the story, the way he told it, absolutely true. It did absolutely happen. But the place where this happened is also the path where all the navigators took that path, not only from between this island and Molokai, but it was a specific path or current that would also take you like to Tahiti. And so he said he's not sure if that had anything to do with it, if that was actually, the path of navigators. He believed it was. But he said, how strange that this whale came out of nowhere and just took us back as far as we could get. So, wow, it's a crazy story.
Fascinating. Are there any other stories that you feel would be important for the viewers to hear?
There's this lady that worked for the state, and she said her and her mom never got along. Like, the older she got, she used to be her mom's favorite, but when she was like teenager, they just kept butting heads. And she said, every few years, the mom would force her to go with her to Japan to visit the family. And she said, I hate going because every time I go there, my Japanese aunts and uncles, she said, especially my auntie's telling me, oh, you're so fat, when you're going to lose weight. And so she said, so I want to do that, another 15 years, hear the same thing all the time. She goes, look at me, I'm skinny, but they keep telling me I'm fat. I said, okay. And so she goes, so finally the last time, my mom get into a big fight and she wants me to go. It's like, I don't want to go. She said, I'm just tired of being insulted, you go. So they're all mad, dropped off the mom at the airport, and she said, we don't even hug. It's just like, well, like that. She gets on the plane. And she said the next day she got into this really bad car accident. Broke her femur, her ankle, and everything. So it took a while to recover. And she said this was March 6th when it happened. And so when she finally, came out of the surgery and everything, the doctor told her, oh, you cannot stay by yourself, since your mom's in Japan, so you probably got to stay at your brother's house or have your brother come home and care for you. And so she said, she's in and out of the medication. And so when she comes out of the medication, she looks like this. And she said, well, my mom came back already, but, it must have been raining because she's soaking wet. She's going through my stuff. And she's like, Mom, what you doing? And she said, the mom said, Iwate no sajin gara. She goes, huh? And she's like, for your 18th birthday, Iwate no sajin gara. She goes, what are you looking for pictures for? It's like, you're supposed to take care of that before you went. Why you never take them? Why for my 18th birthday? And she's like, what was I? And so the mom goes outside, and then, she said she falls asleep again, and the brother comes in, and she didn't know it was like 2 days later, and the brother goes, oh, you hungry? It's like, yeah. She goes, I'll go make you something to eat. And before he leaves her room, he goes, by the way, when you wake up and go to the bathroom, because you can go on the crutches now, yeah? She goes, yeah. He goes, do you not make it to the bathroom? She's like, what do you mean? She goes, every time I come in here, I get water, like from your room to the bathroom, so I assume, you never make them. She goes, I make it fine. And she goes, it's Mom. She keeps coming in here, rifling through my stuff. I don't know what she's talking about. Pictures. And so the brother goes like this. Oh. The brother comes back with the laptop and sits on the bed next to her and opens the laptop like this. And he pulls up this video and he tells her, so this happened while you were out, coming in and out of your, you're underneath from medication. He goes, but this is while you're medicated. And so she said he pressed play for the video, and she said it's the video of the tsunami, that hit Iwate, which is where the mom went.
Yeah.
And so the brother told her, so Mom went, to Iwate visiting the aunties, and the earthquake happened, the tsunami came, and the brother said, so the aunties told me that the water was coming up their street, so they ran, and the mom was with them. But they said the mom turned around and ran back into the house, and it was like, where are you going? And the mom said, Iwate no sashin kara. I have to go look for that. And the mom went in the house, and the water took the house. And so the brother said, still cannot find mom.
Wow. Damn, thank you for sharing. Is there anything that scares you?
Taxes. It's very scary.
Well, ain't that true? Ain't that true? You're absolutely right about that one. Well, I do want to ask you, are there any dangers doing what you do?
There's physical dangers, like mentally ill, homeless people. Chances of branches falling on your head. But there's also the spiritual things you have to be conscious of, which is why before we start, I always start with an oli, a chant, and then we also finish with a chant as well. Even though I'm hosting like anywhere from 200 to 200 people, no matter what happens that night, and whatever happens, whoever made it happen, essentially that's all on me, because I'm the male ho'okipa, so I'm responsible for the physical and spiritual well-being of everybody. Yeah, so that's why I take a lot of precautions so we can be as safe as possible because of those physical and spiritual dangers.
Absolutely. I got one more question, and I'm going to give it to Kenji. But your YouTube channel is taking off right now. Actually, even your Instagram, I see the amount of views, and I see that there's a larger interest that you're generating. Your wife is a big part of that. What role does she play in all of this?
She runs the business, and she does all the promos and everything you see on Instagram and YouTube. So she's responsible for all of that. So without her, this wouldn't be here. So literally, and she's like, oh, you're just being good, mushy, but literally worship the ground she walks on.
And you told me right before this that you have a house full of keiki, and it's not like you can just, hey guys, be quiet, we're gonna film.
Yeah.
You said that you film in the early hours of the morning.
Sometimes we have to film 3-4 o'clock in the morning. So I was saying to you earlier, if it looks like I'm out of it on that video, that's because it's about, sometimes maybe 3-4 o'clock. But my wife's so diligent, she's behind the camera, she's like, wake up.
Hey, what happens at 3 o'clock at night?
Nothing. It happens at 4 o'clock at night. 3 o'clock at night is for the continent, for the United States. That's their witching hour. 1:30 in the afternoon is for Europe. But 4 o'clock in the morning is for parts of Asia and the Pacific. So that's our hour when the veil is lifted.
And there's more activity.
More activity and clear communication to the other side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What about whistling at night? One last thing, whistling at night.
Try it. See what happens. In fact, if you can determine on a map, a Google map on this island where there's a specific crossroads, go there at 4 o'clock in the morning and do the whistling thing. And and send me a Gmail.
Yeah. I probably won't do it. Hey, one last thing. Sorry, it keeps coming up because we did actually film at Makua Cave.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, and actually even the significance of Makua Cave, and then also the story of the lava tube that connects to different parts of the island.
So that night when we filmed with yourself and Kenji-san, I had no idea that it was the last of the night marcher moons, which was Muku, the night of no moon. So that's the night when the gods roam the earth, and in ancient times, nobody's supposed to be out. So that night, if you remember, it's like torrential rain and wind, branches, and I think there was like a landslide. We're all in the cave. And I think after the beautiful woman you were with, she had like scratches on her back, which was indicative of stuff that happens in that cave. Once whatever's in that cave recognizes you as being spiritually open, it just starts making itself known. Yeah, so that was a crazy night.
That was, and I think a couple of hours after we left, that's when the boulder fell.
Yeah.
A couple of, I don't know, feet or whatever, yards from that actual cave opening. So you said, I think, I think someone would, in the ancient times, there's a story of somebody escaping through the small hole in the end of the cave.
So from what I understand, and I can give you this aspect, when I was taking the docent class at Iolani Palace, the cultural part, there was a gentleman whose father was retired from the U.S. Navy. I think it's unclassified now. But he said his father told him that certain personnel in the Navy were assigned to go through these lava tubes with the PIFO board and, the mask in the tank. And one of the things they train you for is not to panic when you're in this small, dark space. There's no sound. So he was told he actually started from Kaneana Cave and came out on the windward side, but he said there's huge caverns like canoes and, you can see huts and everything. And then he said it just this small space.
What do you mean huts and canoes?
Like in these big lava tubes, like
underneath the ground?
Yeah.
Were they storing it there? Were people living there?
No, it's almost like it was just left there. Because from what I was told from this gentleman, the father told him inside the double-hulled canoes were also bones.
Oh.
So he had this feeling of dread, like he wasn't supposed to be there.
Okay.
And so when he finally came out, he was on the windward side. He said, what is now H3 facing, like, where Safeway and all that stuff is, like over there. That's where he ended up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, H3, when you're going up H3, I know that there were some challenges building it, right? And there were some bones that were uncovered. When I was driving one time, one of my Hawaiian friends said, anytime you see one of those palm trees, that's where somebody trekked to bury the iwi, the bones. Is that correct?
Depending upon the palm tree, if it's a really, really tall one and it looks fairly aged, probably. Because, there were burials in caves, in reefs, wherever they could find a place to secret the bones so nobody could find it. And sometimes, burial markers were trees like kumunio, like coconut, vili vili. So those burial places you see downtown Honolulu, like Ward, where TJ Maxx is, there's that wrought iron gate. Yeah, so that's where the burials are, but you see all the native plants, kukui, halapepe, tea leaf, all burial markers.
Wow, thank you, Lopaka, for sharing. I want to tell the people where they can find you, but right before that, Kenji, do you have a question?
Yeah, so as you could say, a broker of stories of sorts.
Broker of stories. All right.
What can you just tell us your method of fact checking / research / selection? Because you come across a lot of stories. What's your method of whatever kind of curation that you do before you present it?
Oh, definitely fact checking first, the place where the thing had happened. So checking out maps, history, archives, total history of the place, and then talking to the person as well to find out if the person is not going through some mental instability in their life, relationship problems, all that. So a lot of those personal traumas also manifest or makes you think something is going on. And so once all those things are in place, and sometimes we even have to check as far as what the weather was, any unusual weather patterns, if the place is in an area on any of the islands that have electromagnetic fields. Like how Hawaiian Electric has their big station, so that could factor into it too. So once we get all those things out of the way, then you can tell the story.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's the single most important thing that you've learned doing what you do?
That it's not about me. I mean, I'm the guy here in front of you, saying all these things, but I'm just a servant, I'm a kumuhula, and I teach haumana. I'm also a person who's spiritually adept, but I'm really a servant, I'm here to serve. So I know my place in the pantheon of what this is supposed to be. Physical world, spiritual world, but essentially I'm a servant.
And it really comes down to respect.
And humility.
And humility.
Which is what my mom told me. She said, no act, brah. Because the second you think you're big, she's like, I'll come out of the grave and I'll do this.
Well, we really appreciate it. I'd love to end on an oli. Can you tell the people where they can find you, your website?
mysteries-of-hawaii.com.
And on Instagram?
Hawaii Ghost Guy. Can you believe it?
Hawaii Ghost Guy. Can you close us out with a oli?
Sure. ka haina Hawaii lo ka hia kulike. Olu kamana o ha'a kokulana. Honui alana kila. Aloha mai na Hawaii o ke aloha no Kaumeanui. E o mai na Hawaii na pua na lei. Ngā mamoe. Ala mai ka hui laula kaulana. O mai ka lehuleu. Ha'a heo o na Hawaii. Ano ai ke aloha e. Mahalo kuma Charlani.
Amen. Ah.
Thank you so much for watching this interview. If anything in this video made you feel something, please share this video with someone you think would feel the same way. This channel is a product of two brothers born and raised in Hawaii, using our skills, our story, and our growing network to unleash our creativity. For us, being creative isn't optional. It's a duty. We've got some incredible interviews and creative projects coming up, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to us. Hope to see you in the next one.